but I am doing my event, The Art of Being a Gracious Diva. So if you aren't joining me at the event, we've already talked a little bit about the dynamics of the moon this week and what's going on, how it's even applying to the event. So if you haven't seen those videos yet, go check them out. I'll put them in the description below. And in the meantime, let's dive in. So we are talking about the full moon in Sagittarius, and it was a big one, y'all. Whew, leading up to it, it was packing a lot of power, because that is the cue. Quantum human design word is power. And on the gene key side, we're talking about force as the shadow, strength is the gift, and majesty is the city, which is just hot. Yeah, so majesty, I don't want to even go that far in, but just feeling into that and feeling the capability of that, of like only awareness existing is the description in the book. And yeah, it takes you there gradually because you're learning about the shadow and the gift first. And it's always interesting to me that the city is closer to the shadow often than the gift is. It's so interesting. Why? Because it's the same energy, and it's that energy at its highest realization. And so it's actually in that city, it's the most obviously birthed from that same energy, that pattern. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so force is the shadow, gift is the strength, and the city is majesty. Yay, yay, yay. Next moon is going to be the new moon in Gemini. So if you want to hang out with me then, please do join in, follow along, and you'll see when the videos are posted. And in the meantime, we're going to dive in. We're going to start with a little bit of what Richard was trying to get across to us in the Gene Keys. The chapter is called, chapter for the Gene Key 34, it's called Bane of Trying. I just love this because it's just something that I'm talking to my people about all the time, that we are doing too much, we're trying too hard, we're making it harder than it needs to be, we're making it hard. And this key is talking directly to that understanding for me. Survival of the fittest is where this energy is coming from. So in the shadow, it's this need to survive and to be the last man on the hill. I don't know. I don't even know where I get getting that reference, but but yeah, it's that desire to just be dominant. It's weird, but there's actually another energy that's more dominance, but this one is about just that impetus to survive. It's this instinct. It's just, I'm going to live. And it's not really a thought process. That's the difference between that and the dominance, because the dominance is like, I want to dominate. So that's a brain thought. The living instinct is just part of being an animal, right? And so there is that fact. What's so funny is that they do talk about animals. It talks about how it's part of the evolutionary force, that energy is part of that evolutionary force that pushes us to our next evolution. He was talking about man becoming upright, and he was talking about a few other things, but there's just that natural movement to see a new frontier. That desire within us is an instinct, right? There's another kind of version of that one too. Now that I'm remembering more keys, it's interesting when they kind of pop into my head. Now I just have to attach their numbers to them so I can pull it up like a directory. That's how my brain works. But yeah, so we're talking about this pure evolutionary primal instinct directive to survive. And I've thought of this story when I was talking to about something with my husband earlier, about just knowing, like, he was talking about having a moment when he was a kid where he didn't feel like he was afraid of anything. And I remember I was intensely afraid of my sister, but I would still fight her. So my thing as a kid was, I was like, no matter how much I thought that I would lose, or that she was going to end me as my big sister because she was mad, right? that I was still like, to this day, she calls me so stubborn. Like, I'm stubborn beyond what makes sense to her, right? And it's this instinct of survival, in my opinion, because my part of what who I am and who I believe myself to be are my ideas, especially as a kid, right? So if she was trying to get me to admit something that wasn't my idea or what I believed, I would be like, no, that's not what I believe. No. And I would refuse to give in, right? So, what is that thing that is just part of who you are? This is, to me, like the closest you'll ever get to understanding the truth of purpose, because the purpose, that energy, that thing that drives you to keep being yourself and alive in this world. Yes, the kids are having a lot of fun outside. So yeah, so that's an instinct to survive. And when we snuff out that purpose, what truly makes life meaningful to us, we are interfering with our own ability to survive. This is when we're more susceptible to disease and what do you call it, like mental illness, right? So this is why it's not just important because, we're selfishly living our purposes. It's important because it's literally why we're here. And if we're not in the energy, in the line of the energy of why we're here, we start to not be here in different ways. So it shows up like disease, it shows up like mental illness, it shows up like dissatisfaction with life, and even kind of that um, you know, the mental illness of just like, what is that phrase I was trying to think of? It was basically, and now we got sirens, y'all. It was, you think I'm in the middle of the city, hello, it's outside. But but yeah, that phrase of, you only live once, or why can't I think of it? But it was something that people were yelling out of cars while they're doing crazy things that could kill them, literally. Like, it's that to me is the extreme of that. Because yeah, but if they're here for a reason, like, why sacrifice your life to for a thrill, right? Um, but then the truth is that some people's purpose is just to experience that thrill. So that they are on purpose, right? So that we can't judge for other people. Everybody's here for their own reason, and that's why we get to have our own, so we don't have to worry about other people's reason. To mind our own business. All right, so that's one, but it does look like that. This is something that is very instinctive, and it's born of just your body and yourself, and it overrules everything. So it can look like complete unawareness. Some of the biggest atrocities in shadow, of course, are created. So the biggest atrocities of, like, violating other people's rights as humans, all that kind of thing comes from this shadow, because it just becomes unconscious to what the consequences are of that brute force, that power. So it has no self-awareness, you know, and we can make that wrong as a judgment, or we can turn it into the city, because that's the majesty, is like not having it, and you have only awareness. So it's not awareness of something else. So it becomes unity, right? Like, it's awareness is, instead of awareness aware of other externalized things, right? So that's pretty cool, right? Then we have a quote direct from the book is, trying to make something happen against flow. So that's another dynamic of the shadow, when we're trying to make things happen even though it's not ready to happen. It's not, people aren't flowing with it. The kids don't want to go to the park today, and you're forcing shoes on their feet and everything else, instead of just like sitting up, okay, what is in flow? Like, what do you want to do? You want to go in the backyard? You want to paint a book? Paint or color? In a coloring book, right? Like, that's, you want to start, like, stop, feel into the environment, see what's in flow with what is, right? And again, it's not for the power here. So if this is part of your chart and as your superpower, it is not not even thinking of what it would do to you, right? To undertake this thing. So what if they said, let's go to Brazil? And you're like, I don't know how we're going to go to Brazil. And you just wrap up the kids and you go, because that was in flow, right? And then in that awareness, you can stay in flow. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but it's that sense of, and we'll talk about this in the second, of not needing yourself to be served in the process of being in flow, which is, if that's your purpose key, that's kind of awesome, right? Mine is kind of like, I need my purpose to, I need myself to be in the center of the thing. This one is what they call a hero dynamic. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But what happens is that, like, when you're forcing things that you're going against the flow, is causing dissonance, and then people tend to push back. People get louder. They start, instead of just saying, no, mommy, they throw their sons on the floor and they start a full-on tantrum, right? It just exponentializes the pushback or the feeling that things aren't going to work out, right? And they stop moving in the direction that they desire to move in. So this is that force of shadow. When we're in that place, we're trying so hard that we're like, oh, well, I'll just try some, like we keep shifting out of the path that we're supposed to be on. And then it creates confusion. I was talking about this earlier. So amazing, because when Daryl and I have deep conversations during the moon, which is happening more and more regularly, it's always like pertaining to it's weird, y'all, because it's not like, I mean, yeah, I looked up 34 and I had written down power, but I hadn't done my deep dive yet. So I didn't, my brain doesn't pull things up on random. It doesn't. I have to be very strategic about these things in order to tell you these stories about what these energies mean, right? So anyways, I have notes galore, trust me, otherwise I would remember nothing of the stuff. That's getting better too, but it's more of a recent shift to be able to just pull things out as I need it. So out of my brain. Okay, don't be weird. I'm joking. So yes, and then when you're trying, yeah, you meet resistance from others. So that's what I was sharing before. It is that fear of a loss of life. It's just, like the last instinct is just, I'm just going to live, even if you don't know why you want to live anymore, right? That's why you can do this and be in this genius or superpower without even accessing your purpose, right? That would be a really cool purpose. Evolution. This is forcing us upright. Okay, forcing us upright. So that's that just idea of evolution itself, like what made us want to stand up, right? It's that inner knowing that something is bigger than where you are right now. And that impetus of force, pressure upon you is what creates that next evolution. It's like a boom, right? The repressive energy here is self-effacing. We basically recognize authorities that's not our own. So we don't have to like own that we are trying to get somewhere, that path we were just talking about. The reactive force is, one second. So that reactive side is bullish. It's basically pushing your forcing or wants and desires on others, right? So at least we're in action on this side, but this one, again, is like not recognizing the impacts you're having, not having that self-awareness of what your actions, what the consequences will be. So it can obviously look like shadow because nobody likes a bully, right? And so even if we're bullying and lovingly, like, I just want you to be healthy. Why can't you just listen to me so you're healthy, right? That's, people are still going to resist your efforts. So we want to be in the gift side of this. Strength is not having to fight or force it, right? You know it's true. You know if they make the choice, they'll feel better, that healthy choice, right? And then you let it go. And then maybe they'll think about it. And maybe they'll ask you another question one day, or you drop another nugget on another day, and it makes them put the two and two together and say, huh, maybe it is time to think about doing these things differently. But if we force it, then people are going to fight back, right? And that's what we have to realize. So no, it's not serving our intention. We're not getting the result we desire. So it's not in the light. It's not in awareness. It's not in the alignment of energy, which is where we end up with this key, basically. So the programming partner, right, that gets to live with this one on the opposition on the wheel is 20, is the shadow of superficiality, which basically means that you're just not noticing the deeper meaning of being human as being absent to our humanity again. So that programming partner, if you allow that shadow force to take over, then it becomes like, and only as good as the outcome, and only as good as it is shiny, is only as good as it looks like success to others, is am I showing my strength and power, right? Like we have weird correlations of that relationship if it's not in the truth of what the impact is in that self-awareness, right? So, and again, so much of what I end up talking to my clients about is that if we haven't made that the priority of just being aware, then what's the point of the experience? What's the point of that? Now I remember YOLO. What's the point of it? Because you're not even there to live the experience, because you're not present, you're not aware. So even if you live the experience, be like, you know what, I'm not doing that again. If you were smart, like this is what's the problem with like being intoxicated, right? It might have looks like a good idea at the time. The next day you're like, I'm never doing this again. But you weren't conscious in the moment, and when you made the decision, well, you know, maybe you were, maybe if you're conscious when you made the decision, you'll be very clear when it's time not to make that decision again. Right? When that, you know, situation, opportunity to make that decision that you decided you didn't want to make again, you would be clear when that enters in. If you're not clear, if you're not awake to it, that's what addiction looks like. Right? Addiction looks like you are doing it when you're unconscious. You're doing it as instinct, right? And so there's no thought process. So you don't even know when you made the choice to do that addictive pattern, right? So this is true about foods, about, you know, it's not just alcohol and drugs. It's about life. Every time we pick up that phone and are just scrolling, and we're not even looking at anything, we're just scrolling. Right? It happens in a lot of ways. Strength, appropriate activities. This is getting long. I'm used to been doing my thing, and it's like a little luxury, isn't it? Strength is appropriate activities and correct timing. So the gift here and the superpower is that we just notice the timing. We just go, go, go. It's this gift. Oh, this is what I love. This is the hero heroine part. Let me read this to you. It's a little long, but it's worth it. I promise. The 34th gift is the gift of heroes and heroines. It is one of the greatest and oldest of human archetypes. True heroism occurs without awareness and is a wholly individual act. This is why every human being alive feels deep resonance to the heroes of myth or the heroes of contemporary culture. Heroism denotes strength. Ironically, though, true strength is quite unaware of itself. So this is that unawareness, right? It's still part of the gift, but some people would overlook that. They'd be like, well, I don't want to be unaware. And they would make unaware wrong. And so they don't have the opportunity to live into the gift here. But if you just accept, right? Accept what is, right? Then you get to recognize that it's in just a pure active response to what energy, life force is growing and evolving, what is going to be spiraling up towards. And when you just give yourself over to that, you can act faster than anybody. That's what the beauty of athleticism is. It's like noticing how instinctive the movements of the body are according to the truth of what's unfolding for the athlete, right? That is fun to watch. You know, genius is always fun to watch, right? Otherwise, I mean, in my opinion, otherwise you wouldn't be watching me, because that's what's unfolding when I'm moving into these intuitions, when I'm pulling them out for the energy I feel like is showing up in the space, right? They wouldn't be, they wouldn't feel as accurate. They wouldn't feel as exciting. Because I mean, do I look exciting to you? I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe I do. And we're all different. That's okay. But there's that part. And then there's the part where yeah, it's just part, when somebody's doing living in their genius, it's automatically attractive, even if it's something you would think, you know, I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want that form of genius, but it is fascinating, right? That's that feeling. So the I Ching, I may do this for every key now moving forward. The I Ching is that Zhuang, I think it's the closest I'm going to get to pronunciation today. And it means great power. So it is that power, right? Power, 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 but pure power, not, you know, the power of something coming from something else. It's the power itself. Okay. This is another beautiful quote. The more you try to force life to flow where you would like it to go, as opposed to where it wants to go, the less efficient you become and the more energy you use. This could be like a direct quote again from one of my sessions. When you force things, you're making stuff harder for yourself, making it harder than it has to be. If we go with the natural flow of the river, then we can conserve some energy and apply the energy we have when it's most needed and be efficient with that, right? That's what I think of as impact. As efficiency to me is impact. Like if you can be the most efficient, then you don't have to work hard. You just have to be attuned to the energy flow, which is the work that we do in my studio, right? Whether that's through your breath flow and the and your support and your vowels and the song and how the song wants to flow, or that's your speech, how you feel about your speech, how you feel about the audience's response to your speech, and how you want them to feel at the end, right? Or that is about our our lives, how we're creating our lives, how you want to feel in flow and joy and possibility and expansion and freedom as you're living your life. Like, how do we do that in flow, right? So that's my work. That's what I do. That's what I like to do. The Karen Curry Parker wants to let us know that um, that this full moon is about that release, right? Now we're going to let go of some things. So what you want to let go of are the patterns that you have around not allowing your power to be evident, immediate, what's getting in the way of your power, right? And how, can you let it flow more? Or can you allow yourself to be in the power level, the effectivity that you deserve, so that you can see the things taking place that you want to make happen? Can that, even if it takes that last minute dive as the heroine or hero, right? So are you setting your standards high enough? And how much good are you willing to receive? So we're coming back to a bit of self-worth on this one, y'all. A little bit, a little bit. And the challenge here is not forcing the timing. This is hard because we've been taught to set goals with times on them. Yeah, I know. I've heard this story. I know I didn't have timing on my goals for a really long time because I kept thinking the timing was the goal. No, 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 no. The results are the goal. The time is a suggestion. Okay. The results are the goal. The time is a suggestion, unless we're setting a container. Now it's a thing yet to materialize. And so we have to treat it as such. Um, that's the thing about setting time limits on goals, especially for manifestations. Like if you don't know how the goal is coming to pass, then time probably shouldn't be a factor. If you know the steps that it takes and it's something that you've completed before, and you'll be clear when you're at the beginning and the ending and how close you are to that goal, then putting a timing on that could just be more motivational for you. But if it's not motivational to you, take it off. That's why I had my timing off on my goals for a long time. Not all my goals have timing. I still accomplish most of them. Like some of my bigger ideas take longer to form, but they become like projects within projects. So it's time to reveal I have an organization system that I'm in love with, and I can't wait to share with you guys this year. Like it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. That's all I'm saying. All right. Unbalanced expression, too busy to tune in or burn out from forcing. The optimal expression is responding to the right opportunities and the right people at the right time, right? So it's a timing issue. It's like following that impulse, which is what I told you is all going to come back to, right? Are we following the impulse of life? What wants to live, that energetic force that is all knowing? Are we following God? Are you following our light, our spark, our evidence of God within ourselves and our world? Right? I know I said it right at least 100 times today. That who needs to hear right that much? Anyways, okay, let me finish this up because this is not meant to be a long one. And then a contemplation question: how can I wait with greater faith and ease? I think this is just a good question. It's like a journal question. This is a ask myself what's true for me question. Like go in, go deep, maybe meditate a little bit around it, see what pops up. The affirmation here is a partial quote from Karen Curry Parker. My power is more active when I allow the universe to set the timing. I wait. I am patient. I trust. Just breathing that in, right? It's good stuff. All right. So that's our affirmation that we got from our lovely Karen Curry Parker. So these are my takeaways. 3 things to let go of. Let go of deadlines for a sense of accomplishment. So this is, again, the difference between why I create a deadline for myself and when I don't, right? If it's just so that I can feel like I did a thing on time, it's an ego thing, then I leave it off. If it's because I know I can do something in a better time frame, it shouldn't really take that long. If I put a little focus on it, I can get it done in a succinct time frame. So it's a lot of my short-term tasks is where I will set an actual time frame. I can do that in 10 minutes. It'll be done by tomorrow, right? If I put it as a priority. Some of those, I can do it in 10 minutes. It's still not a priority, so I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. That is a priority to do that. For coming by, I appreciate you being here. And if I don't see you in chat on YouTube, then I'd love to see you at one of my events. Check my links in the comments.